When I was a young boy, I used to go on road trips with my father, and we had a specific road trip game that we used to play. The game was called Guess That Classic Rock Song on the radio. Now, I know there's a bunch of millennials here right now, so let me explain to you what a radio is. See, a radio is something we used to entertain ourselves while we were driving in a car. It had certain stations, and you turned into certain frequencies, and they had radio stations. And each radio station was a little different. Some played this type of music, and some played this type of music. Some didn't have any music at all. All they did was talk all the time. If you don't know what I'm talking about, cars may still have them today. So if you go look in your car and you see something that says AM or FM, that's the radio. We used to love to play Guess That Classic Rock Song. And so my dad would tune in to the radio, and he would tune on the classic rock song. And he grew up in the 60s and 70s, and so I didn't grow up in the 60s and 70s. So every time he'd say, "Son, who plays this song?" And I didn't know who played the song. So after a while, I get tired of playing, and so I would just answer Aerosmith after every song. It was Aerosmith. Aerosmith played it. That's right. It was Aerosmith. I did learn some of his classic rock, though, and I really did love a song called Shooting Star by a band called Bad Company. I don't know if any of y'all are familiar with this song. I love the song because it depicts this guy who wanted to be a rock star. And so, in fact, one of the lyrics says, he told his mama, he said, "Mama, I'm going away. I'm going to be a big rock star someday." And when he told him that, you could tell that that was his dream. That was what he identified himself as a rock star. And he got there. He got to be a rock star. His identity was fulfilled in that way. And our gospel, a main theme of our gospel today is the identity. Now, we're still off the heels of the miracle of the 5,000, right? The feeding of the 5,000. And we see that Jesus, after the feeding of the 5,000, they wanted Jesus to become their king, right? But Jesus rejected that identity of earthly kingship. That wasn't what Jesus was looking for. That wasn't Jesus' identity, was just to come and feed people, right? Or just to become an earthly king. That's not what he was about. But instead today, Jesus reveals part of his identity, right? I am the bread that came down from heaven. I am the bread of life. And instead of Jesus rejecting that, a false identity from them, they in turn reject the true identity of Jesus. No, you are not this, right? You are the son of Joseph. We know who your family are. You can't be the bread that came down from heaven. So again, they give Jesus another false identity. You're just the son of Joseph. We all deal with false identities, whether they are given to us by other people or whether we put them on ourselves. Father Alex and I are good friends, as you know, and when Father Alex was in seminary, his identity was always encapsulated in arguing. He loved to argue with people. So his identity was all up here. His intellect, right? So he might not be the fastest guy in the world. Well, Lord knows he's not the fastest guy in the world. He may not be the tallest guy in the world. That's true. He's not the tallest. He can grow some impressive facial hair, right? But he could argue till you stopped arguing with him. Let me just say that. I never said he was right. I'm just saying he'll continue to argue until you can't argue with him. For myself, my identity coming from a blue-collar family was all about my work ethic. I may not be the fastest, the strongest, the smartest, but you better believe I could outwork you because my family could outwork anybody else, right? That's my identity, or that's what I held to as my identity. But the truth is, both of those are false identities as well, because one day the intellect will dim, and one day I will not have the strength to be able to work as hard as I worked in my 20s and my 30s. That's the truth. So if we hold to false identities, whether that being this or that or this, they're all going to fade away one day. And what Jesus is saying is, I am the bread of life. And he's saying, hold your identity to that. All who eat my flesh will live forever, right? That's what he is saying today. So we have to hold to the true identity of what God created us to be. He didn't create us to have a good work ethic here or be able to argue with people there. He created us to be sons and daughters. And everything must be built upon that identity. Is that we come down and we're here and we're meant for heaven. We're not meant for just this earth. We're not meant to just have a good work ethic or have a strong mind. We're meant for heaven. And he gives us the food of heaven so that we can get there. That is the identity that he gives us. That is the identity that we have to cling to. But if we hold to false identities, we end up like that song I mentioned at the beginning of Mass, right? The song, he held to the rock star identity so much They ended up living the rock star life. And what did the rock star life get him? It got him a drug overdose. That's not the identity we want to hold to. That's not who we are meant to be. That's not what God made us for. So as we come to the table of the Lord, let us remember our true identity as sons and daughters of God, as brothers and sisters of Christ. Because when we hold to that identity and we build upon that foundation, great things can happen.